Human bartender accidentally brews sacred alien drink. Now he's worshipped. Leo stared at the swirling blue concoction in the synth glass shaker. It looked vaguely radioactive. Is this even safe to drink? Probably not, but Gregor insists the tourists love exotic earth cocktails. He shrugged, pouring the glowing liquid into a tall, fluted glass scavenged from some defunct luxury liner. He'd called it the Azure Abyss because it sounded mysterious and covered up the fact it was mostly leftover pineapple synth juice, a splash of cheap blue liqueur he couldn't pronounce, and the dregs of a potent Zargonian ale someone had abandoned. Waste not, want not, especially on docking station Gamma 7. A shadow fell over his makeshift bar, eclipsing the station's perpetual twilight glow. Leo looked up, then up some more. Standing before him was the most stunning and intimidating woman he'd ever seen, and she definitely wasn't human. She was tall, easily scraping 7 feet, with skin like polished silver that seemed to shimmer faintly. Intricate, darker gray patterns swirled across her high cheekbones and down her long neck, disappearing beneath a severe, high-collared robe of deep violet. Her eyes were large, luminous gold, and currently fixed on the azure abyss with unnerving intensity. Okay, note to self, intimidating space elves are apparently a thing. This, she stated, her voice a low, resonant hum that vibrated oddly in Leo's chest, amplified slightly by the universal translator implant near her temple. Her gaze didn't lift from the drink. It's resonance, it calls. Resonance? Lady, it's practically screaming hangover. Leo pasted on his best customer service smile. It's the special today, the Azure Abyss. Wanna try one? He gestured vaguely. It's transportive. Transportive straight to the nearest medbay, maybe. The alien woman finally met his eyes. Those golden orbs widened almost imperceptibly. She leaned closer, invading his personal space without seeming to notice. He caught a faint, clean scent like ozone after a storm mixed with something subtly floral. The patterns on her skin seemed to shift, the gray deepening slightly. You created this. Yeah, just whipped it up. Leo nervously wiped his hands on his apron. Why is she looking at me like I just solved cold fusion with a cocktail shaker? She reached out a long-fingered hand, silver skin cool against the grimy bar top. Her fingernails were a natural, pearlescent white. Permit me. She didn't wait for permission, carefully lifting the glass. Her touch was surprisingly gentle. She brought it close to her face, not to drink, but seemingly to feel it. Her eyes closed briefly. The patterns on her temples pulsed with a soft, inner light like faint starlight trapped beneath her skin. Okay, definitely not normal. She took a delicate sip. Her eyes snapped open, wide with shock. The luminescence under her skin flared brighter, swirling in complex, mesmerizing waves. She stared not at the drink but directly at him. It cannot be, she whispered, her voice filled with awe. The lost nectar of Xyler, brewed by an off-worlder. A murmur went through the handful of patrons nearby, a couple of burly Rigelian dockworkers and a nervous-looking Florgonian merchant. They stared, first at the alien woman, then at Leo. Nectar of what now? Did she just call my crappy cocktail holy juice? Look, lady, Leo started, trying to sound nonchalant. It's just pineapple, some blue stuff and... Silence. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cracked with authority, cutting him off instantly. The other patrons immediately averted their gazes. She placed the glass back on the bar with reverent care. You do not understand the significance. For centuries, the true nectar has been legend, its energetic signature, the precise balance, lost to us, until now. She gestured towards him, her hand trembling slightly. You human, you have recreated the sacred draft. Sacred draft? Oh, hell no. This is bad. This is really, really bad. Leo felt a sudden urge to duck behind the bar and pretend he was just the cleaning guy. She straightened to her full, imposing height. I am Zalara, high priestess of the Cathar ascendancy. And you, she declared, her golden eyes blazing, are the blessed brewer. You must come with me. Now. Leo just blinked. Come with you where? I've got a shift until. Your previous obligations are irrelevant, Zalara interrupted smoothly, though the patterns on her neck pulsed again. Is that like alien blushing, or is she about to smite me? The Cathar people require your presence. Your gift. She gestured again at the glowing blue drink. Gift? It's a 50-credit cocktail special, Leo protested, trying to keep the panic out of his voice. 50 credits I am definitely not getting now. Zalara tilted her head, a slow, deliberate movement. Your species' obsession with credits is puzzling. This is beyond mere commerce. This is destiny. She turned slightly, addressing the now openly gawking patrons. Witness, the nectar is returned, the brewer is found. The Rigelians exchanged confused glances. The Florgonian squeaked and tried to hide behind a cargo crate. Yeah, that's about how I feel, buddy. Look, Priestess Zalara, Leo tried again, lowering his voice. I think there's been a misunderstanding. It's really not. There is no misunderstanding, Zalara stated firmly. Two more Cathar, clad in similar violet robes but less ornate, appeared seemingly out of nowhere, flanking her. They had the same silver skin and eerie calm. Great space elf backup dancers. You will accompany us to the temple sanctuary on Xylos. It is essential. Leo looked from Zalara's intense golden eyes to the stoic guards, then back to the radioactive blue cocktail sitting innocently on the bar. He thought about his crappy apartment, his dwindling savings, and the sheer, mind-numbing boredom of serving drinks on Gamma 7. Well, it's not like I had big plans for the weekend. Okay, he sighed, pulling off his stained apron. Lead the way, Your Holiness. But if this involves chanting or ritual sacrifice, I'm drawing the line. Zalara offered a small, almost imperceptible smile. The patterns around her eyes seemed to twinkle. Sacrifice will not be necessary, blessed brewer. Merely verification. Verification. Why do I feel like that involves probes? Leo swallowed hard and followed the high priestess and her silver-skinned entourage out of the bar, leaving the azure abyss glowing ominously on the counter. His life had just taken a very weird, very blue turn. The journey to Xylos was a blur of hyperspace corridors and Zalara's unsettlingly serene presence. Her ship was sleek, silent, and smelled faintly of that ozone floral scent. Leo spent most of the trip trying to appear calm while internally cataloging every possible escape route. None involved surviving vacuum, unfortunately. Zalara mostly observed him, her golden eyes occasionally flicking over him as if assessing a particularly unusual piece of art. The swirling patterns on her skin were a constant, subtle dance of light and shadow. You seem agitated, brewer, she remarked during one long silence, her voice smooth as polished chrome. Just Leo, he corrected automatically. And yeah, well, being hailed as the messiah of cocktails is a bit outside my usual Tuesday. Understatement of the freaking galaxy. It is not mere cocktail, Zalara corrected gently. The nectar resonates with the core bioenergies of my people. It facilitates communion, clarifies spiritual pathways. She paused. We believe the precise frequency combination lost forever. Right frequencies, Leo nodded slowly. So this pineapple juice, it's got good vibes. I am so out of my depth. A flicker of something, confusion, amusement, crossed her face. The patterns on her cheekbones shimmered briefly. The components are less significant than the emergent energetic harmony achieved in their synthesis. Your intuition guided you. My intuition was guided by Gregor yelling about using up the expiring synth juice. Sure, intuition. They arrived at Xylos, a moon bathed in the soft purple light of its parent gas giant. The temple sanctuary wasn't some rustic hut. It was a breathtaking structure of crystalline spires and gracefully arching supports that seemed to grow organically from the landscape. Inside, the air was cool and carried that same clean scent from Zalara's ship, only stronger here. Cathar moved through the echoing halls with silent grace, their silver forms catching the ambient violet light. All eyes turned to Leo as he walked beside Zalara. He felt like a poodle that had accidentally crashed a Doberman convention. Play it cool, Leo. Just act like you belong in space church. Zalara led him to a large, circular chamber dominated by a central font filled with gently glowing water. This is the chamber of attunement, she explained. Here, we must verify the harmony between the brewer and the nectar. Verify, Leo eyed the font warily. Does this involve getting wet? Because I only packed one change of clothes. Zalara's lips twitched again. Was that almost a smile? No immersion is required, I must simply assess your energetic signature directly. She stepped closer, the subtle light from the font reflecting in her golden eyes. The patterns on her skin seemed more vibrant here, swirling with soft blues and violets amidst the gray. Okay, up close, she's seriously gorgeous. Intimidatingly gorgeous, but still. He felt an odd warmth spreading through his chest, unrelated to the room's cool temperature. She raised her hand, palm out. May I? Leo hesitated. What choice do I have? Run screaming into the arms of the silver guards, probably not effective. He nodded stiffly. Go ahead. Zalara gently placed her cool palm against his chest, right over his sternum. Her touch was feather-light, yet it sent a jolt through him like static electricity, but deeper, warmer. He sucked in a breath. Her eyes widened slightly and the patterns on her hand flared, mirroring the swirling light on her face. He could feel a faint vibration humming from her palm into his bones. Whoa, okay, definitely not static. Her gaze locked with his. Incredible, she breathed. The resonance. It is not merely in the drink, it is within you. The light from her hand intensified and Leo felt his own heart rate kick up, a strange answering hum seeming to start deep inside him. What the hell is happening? Zalara pulled her hand back abruptly, though her eyes remained fixed on his. The light on her skin subsided slightly but didn't vanish. Your biosignature. It harmonizes with the nectar's frequency in a way no Cathars has for generations. She looked genuinely bewildered. How is this possible for a human? Beats me, Leo managed, trying to get his breathing back under control. His skin tingled where she'd touched him. Maybe I just have naturally resonant chest hair. Smooth, Leo. Real smooth. She didn't seem to register his attempt at humor. This changes things. The prophecy spoke of the nectar's return, but not of the brewer's unique nature. She turned, packing a few steps away, her violet robe swirling around her ankles. The Corvin Sept will not accept this easily. Corvin Sept? Leo asked, rubbing his chest absently. Sounds like a brand of disinfectant. A traditionalist faction, Zalara explained, her expression tightening. They already view my interpretations of the ancient texts with suspicion. They will see an off-worlder brewer as heresy. She faced him again, determination hardening her features. We must proceed carefully. You must learn our ways, understand the significance of your role. My role as sacred bartender, Leo couldn't help the sarcasm. Your role as the catalyst for our people's reconnection, she corrected, her tone serious. For now, you will remain here within the sanctuary as my guest and my student. Guest, student. Feels more like Exhibit A, so I'm basically under house arrest in Space Church because I accidentally made magic juice. You are under my protection, Zalara stated, and you will assist me in brewing more of the nectar under controlled conditions. She gestured back towards the entrance. We must gather the ingredients you spoke of. Leo sighed. Right, pineapple synth juice, blue stuff, Zargonian ale dregs. Good luck finding those in a sacred temple. This is going to be a long guest stay. Days bled into weeks under the violet sky of Xylos. Leo found himself in a bizarre routine, part revered figure, part culinary guinea pig. Zalara procured surprisingly accurate replicas of his terrestrial ingredients, or rather their chemical analogs. Brewing the nectar under her watchful eye was nerve-wracking. She treated the process with hushed reverence, while Leo felt like he was just making glorified space Kool-Aid. Seriously, how is fermented fruit sugar holy? Yet every time he finished a batch, Zalara would test its resonance with delicate instruments that hummed and glowed, and inevitably she would look at him with that same awestruck expression. Perfect harmony, she'd murmur. How do you do it, Leo? Years of practice disappointing customers, he'd quip, but truthfully he didn't know. There was something almost instinctive about the mixing now, a feeling of rightness when the proportions clicked. Maybe I am the cocktail whisperer. His proximity to Zalara was constant. She insisted on overseeing his integration personally. They spent hours together, ostensibly discussing Cathar philosophy or the nectar's properties, but often drifting into surprisingly normal conversation. He learned about the intricate Cathar society, their deep connection to bioenergies, and the immense pressure Zalara faced as High Priestess, especially with the lurking descent of the Corvin Sept. They believe the nectar must be brewed by a Cathar, using ancient, formalized rituals, she explained one evening, swirling a sample of the newly brewed nectar in a crystalline vial. The liquid caught the light, mirroring the soft glow pulsing beneath her skin. Your existence challenges their entire worldview. Yeah, I have that effect on people, Leo said dryly. He watched the light play on her face, the way the silver skin seemed almost translucent over the shifting patterns. He was getting used to it, finding it beautiful rather than just weird, dangerously beautiful. Your levity is unusual, Zalara commented, studying him. Faced with such profound implications, you make jests. Defense mechanism, Leo admitted with a shrug. Easier than admitting I'm completely freaked out and way out of my league, and maybe a little bit attracted to the intimidatingly gorgeous space priestess. Zalara tilted her head. Freaked out, is that a human term for spiritual agitation? Something like that, Leo chuckled. It mostly means wanting to run away screaming but being too polite or too trapped to do so. Her lips curved in that small, rare smile again. The patterns around her eyes brightened. I am glad you have not run away screaming, Leo. The warmth in her voice sent an unexpected thrill through him. His own heart seemed to beat a little faster. Damn it, Leo. She's the High Priestess. You're the accidental booze prophet. Keep it professional. The tension between them grew subtly, an unspoken awareness. Sometimes, when reaching for the same ingredient synthesizer or data pad, their fingers would brush. Her skin was always cool initially, but he noticed it would warm slightly at his touch, a tiny thermal bloom accompanied by a faint intensification of her patterns. He found himself watching those patterns constantly, learning their subtle language, brighter swirls for concentration, deeper pulses for annoyance, usually directed at Corvin Sept reports, and a soft, steady glow for something else. Something he felt when she looked at him sometimes. Or maybe I'm just projecting. One cycle, during a resonance calibration session, Zalara had him place his hand on a smooth, crystalline panel connected to the attunement font. Focus your intent, Leo, she instructed softly, standing close beside him. Feel the energy within the nectar we brewed. He closed his eyes, trying to focus past the distracting scent of ozone and flowers emanating from her. He pictured the swirling blue liquid, the weird sense of rightness he felt when mixing it. Suddenly, the crystal panel beneath his hand pulsed with light, mirroring the rhythm of his own heartbeat. A deep hum resonated through the chamber. Zalara gasped, placing her hand instinctively over his on the panel. The moment her cool skin touched his, the hum intensified dramatically. The light from the panel flared, bathing them both in a brilliant azure glow that matched the nectar precisely. It felt electric, not painful but incredibly alive, a circuit completed between them and the font. The patterns on Zalara's skin blazed, swirling with vibrant blues and whites, no longer subtle but a dazzling display. Her golden eyes were wide, locked on his. He could feel the tremor in her hand, the sudden heat radiating from her skin where it pressed against his. His own pulse was hammering, a strange energy singing along his nerves. Okay, this is definitely not just friendship. She snatched her hand back as if burned, the light and sound immediately dampening, though not vanishing completely. She stared at her own hand, then at him, her expression a mixture of shock and something unreadable. The synergy, she whispered, her voice strained. It is stronger than I imagined, far stronger. Is that good? Leo asked, his voice slightly hoarse. His hand still tingled. Zalara took a deep breath, visibly composing herself. The dazzling light on her skin subsided back to its usual subtle shimmer, though it seemed brighter than before. It is unprecedented, the bond between brewer and nectar. It seems to extend between brewer and priestess. She avoided his eyes for a moment. This complicates matters with the Corvin sept considerably. How? Leo pressed, feeling a strange mix of anxiety and anticipation. Before she could answer, a sharp chime echoed through the chamber. One of the guards appeared at the entrance, his expression urgent. High Priestess, the guard announced formally, though his own patterns pulsed with agitation. Emissary Vorlag of the Corvin sept demands an audience. He speaks of impropriety and challenges the brewer. Zalara's posture stiffened, her earlier composure returning like a mask. The patterns on her neck pulsed with a deep, cool gray. So, she said softly, her golden eyes finally meeting Leo's, a spark of defiance in their depths. It begins. Great. Space elf fundamentalists want a rumble, just what my Tuesday needed. Emissary Vorlag was everything Zalara wasn't: rigid, sharp-featured, with skin, a duller pewter shade and patterns that seemed etched rather than flowing. His eyes were a pale, cold silver, and they fixed on Leo with undisguised contempt. He stood before Zalara's ceremonial platform in the grand convocation hall, flanked by his own stern-faced acolytes. Definitely the no-fun-allowed crew. High Priestess, Vorlag began, his voice crisp and lacking the resonant warmth of Zalara's. The Corvin sept cannot stand idly by while sacred tradition is defiled. This human, he spat the word like a curse, cannot be the brewer of prophecy. His presence here is an abomination. Leo bristled but held his tongue, remembering Zalara's earlier warning to let her handle this. Easy for her to say, she's not the one being called an abomination. Zalara remained serene, seated on her high-backed crystalline chair. Her patterns swirled gently, a calm violet. Emissary Vorlag, the nectar resonates. The brewer's harmony is undeniable, verified by the attunement font itself. Tricks, Vorlag snapped. Human trickery, or perhaps, his eyes narrowed, your own misguided manipulations, priestess. You have always favored novel interpretations. The energy does not lie, Vorlag, Zalara countered, her voice cooling. The air temperature seemed to drop a degree. Then let it be proven, Vorlag declared, slamming his fist onto a nearby console, making a Cathar technician jump. Let the human face the Katara. Let him brew the nectar before the convocation, using the sanctified implements under true Cathar scrutiny. A murmur went through the assembled Cathar. The Katara, Leo gathered from Zalara's earlier explanations, was a formal ritual trial, rarely invoked, used to settle matters of profound spiritual dispute. Oh, fantastic! A divine bake-off. Zalara hesitated for only a heartbeat. Leo saw the brief flicker of concern in her eyes before her mask of authority solidified. The brewer, she announced, her voice ringing with command, is not Cathar. The traditional Katara may not be appropriate. Then he is unworthy, Vorlag crowed triumphantly. Admit it, priestess, send the alien away. No, the word was quiet but absolute. Zalara rose, descending the few steps from her platform to stand level with Vorlag. She was taller than him, and the subtle light emanating from her seemed to intensify, pushing back the shadows in the hall. Leo of Earth may not be Cathar, but his connection to the nectar is genuine. I have felt it. She glanced at Leo, a silent communication passing between them that made his heart thump. She's defending me, really sticking her neck out. He will face a trial, Zalara continued, turning back to Vorlag and the convocation. Not the traditional Katara, but a demonstration. He will brew the nectar here before you all, and its resonance will speak for itself. If it harmonizes, her gaze swept the assembly, daring anyone to object, then his place here is affirmed. If not, she paused, then the Corvin sept's concerns will be addressed. Vorlag looked momentarily taken aback by her swift counter-proposal but quickly recovered. A thin, unpleasant smile touched his lips. "Very well, priestess. A demonstration, but we shall provide the scrutiny. No tricks, no human shortcuts." He looked at Leo again, malice glittering in his pale eyes. "Prepare yourself, off-worlder. Your deception ends today." "Deception? Buddy, I'm as confused as you are." Leo met Vorlag's glare, trying to project confidence he absolutely did not feel. Beside him, almost imperceptibly, Zalara gave a tiny nod. "Okay, deep breaths, it's just making a drink. A really, really important drink, with space fascists watching. No pressure." The demonstration felt less like a brewing session and more like a public dissection. The grand convocation hall buzzed with tension. Vorlag and his acolytes watched Leo's every move like hawks peering at a particularly plump mouse. The ingredients were presented on sterile silver trays, precise chemical analogs Zalara had sourced, but lacking the familiar synth brands Leo was used to. The sanctified implements were ornate, heavy crystal vessels that felt clumsy in his hands. "This is like trying to make a martini with a mortar and pestle." Zalara stood nearby, officially an impartial observer, but Leo could feel her presence like a steadying warmth. Her patterns pulsed with a controlled, encouraging light. He took a shaky breath, trying to ignore Vorlag's smug expression. "Okay, Leo, just do what you do. Forget the space pope stuff. Just make the drink." He started measuring, mixing. It felt different, wrong somehow. The crystal shaker was awkward, the synthetic liquids lacked the usual viscosity. He tried to replicate the steps, the feeling he got back in the temple lab, but the hostile scrutiny and the unfamiliar tools threw him off. Doubt gnawed at him. Maybe Vorlag is right. Maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe I am just a fraud. He glanced at Zalara. Her expression was carefully neutral, but he saw the minute tightening around her eyes, the slight dimming of her patterns. She was worried. He hesitated, shaker poised midair. This wasn't working. It didn't feel right. "Is the human faltering?" Vorlag sneered loudly. Leo closed his eyes for a second. "Okay, screw the recipe. Screw the implements." He remembered the feeling in the attunement chamber, the hum, the connection with Zalara, the flare of light. It wasn't just about ingredients. Zalara had said it was about energetic harmony, intent. My intent. Right now my intent is to not get vaporized by angry space elves. He pushed that thought away. What was his real intent when he made the drink? Back on Gamma 7, it was just about getting through the shift, maybe making something someone enjoyed for a minute. Here it felt different. It was about connection. About the strange link he felt to Zalara, about the hope he saw in her eyes when the nectar resonated. He gripped the crystal shaker tighter, focusing not on the measurements but on that feeling, that spark of connection. He visualized the azure light from the font, the warmth spreading from Zalara's touch. He poured the final ingredient, not measuring but going by instinct, by that inner sense of rightness. "Come on, magic juice. Do your thing." He swirled the mixture. It glowed, but it seemed duller than usual. He poured it into the ceremonial chalice provided. It looked okay, just okay. A standard blue drink. Vorlag smirked. "Present it for testing, human," Vorlag commanded. Leo picked up the chalice, his heart sinking. Well, it was a nice trip while it lasted. He walked towards the central dais where a resonance scanner, monitored by Vorlag's technicians, waited. As he approached, he passed Zalara. Her eyes met his, filled with sudden, fierce belief. Without thinking, without breaking stride, he let his knuckles brush against the back of her hand as he passed. It was the barest contact, almost accidental. But in that instant, something shifted. A jolt, identical to the one in the attunement chamber, shot up his arm. He felt a distinct warmth bloom from her skin, even through the fabric of her robe. He looked down at the chalice in his hand. The dull blue liquid suddenly flared, erupting with the same brilliant, vibrant azure light he'd seen from the font. It pulsed in time with his own heartbeat, bathing the hall in its glow. The resonance scanner beside the dais went wild, emitting a series of high, clear chimes indicating perfect harmonic alignment. A collective gasp went through the convocation. Vorlag stared, his jaw slack, disbelief warring with fury on his face. His technicians frantically checked their instruments. Zalara stepped forward, her own patterns now blazing with triumphant light, mirroring the nectar's glow. Her voice rang out clear and strong. The resonance is undeniable. The brewer is true. The nectar lives. The hall erupted, not in argument, but in awed murmurs and cries of assent from the majority of the Cathar. Vorlag looked stunned, defeated, his acolytes shifting uneasily. Leo just stared at the glowing chalice, then at Zalara, whose golden eyes were fixed on him, alight with something far deeper than priestly approval. Okay, maybe it's not just the pineapple juice. That brief touch. It had done something profound. Later that cycle, after the stunned convocation had dispersed, and Vorlag had retreated with barely concealed rage, Zalara found Leo alone in one of the temple's crystalline gardens, staring out at the violet-lit landscape. The air hummed softly with the temple's ambient energy. "You were magnificent, Leo," she said softly, coming to stand beside him. The light from her patterns cast gentle, swirling shadows on the ground. Leo turned, managing a weak smile. Beginner's luck, divine intervention, or maybe just really good timing on that hand brush thing. Zalara looked down at her own hand, then back at him. The light on her skin pulsed warmly. It was not luck, Leo, it was connection, the energy we felt in the attunement chamber. It amplified through contact. It completed the nectar's harmony. She stepped closer, her usual formality softening. "Your unique biosignature, your human energy. It seems to be the missing catalyst my people have sought for generations. So I'm basically a walking, talking battery for your magic juice. Still sounds weird when I say it out loud." She reached out, hesitating only slightly before gently touching his arm. This time the jolt was softer, a pleasant warmth that spread through him instantly. Her skin felt cool at first, then rapidly warmed beneath his own. The patterns on her arm glowed a soft, inviting blue-white. "You are more than that, Leo." Her golden eyes searched his. "That's synergy. It is the foundation of what my people call Shakhem." "Shakhem?" Leo repeated, the word feeling unfamiliar on his tongue. His gaze was trapped by the hypnotic swirling on her skin, the warmth seeping from her touch. "It means a joining of spirits, a life bond," Zalara explained, her voice barely above a whisper. "It is the deepest connection two Cathar can share based on profound energetic compatibility. It is rare, sacred." She drew her hand back slowly, though her eyes remained locked with his. I never conceived it could occur between a Cathar and another species." Leo's mind raced. Life bond, like mating with the high priestess, holy crap. His heart hammered against his ribs. He looked at Zalara, truly looked past the imposing authority and the alien features. He saw the vulnerability in her eyes, the conflict between her duty and this impossible connection they seemed to share. He saw the woman beneath the priestess, and she was incredible. "Zalara," he began, his voice rough. I don't know anything about Shakhem or energetic bonds. I'm just a bartender from Gamma 7. This is insane, terrifying, exactly what I never knew I wanted." "I know," she interrupted gently, the light around her eyes softened. "It is overwhelming for both of us." She hesitated. "The Shakhem is not merely a title, Leo. It involves a sharing, an intimacy that transcends the physical, though it has physical aspects." "Physical aspects," Leo echoed, feeling heat rise in his own face. "Don't be crude, Leo. She's talking about sacred space bonding." Zalara nodded, a faint silver flush rising on her high cheekbones, making the gray pattern stand out. "Cathar physiology is different. Our emotional states manifest physically. Temperature fluctuations," she glanced at her hand, "the luminescence you see, even pheromonal signals, often unconscious." Leo thought about the ozone floral scent, the way the air sometimes felt charged around her, the warmth he felt bloom in his chest. Pheromones. Is that why I feel so damn aware of her all the time? So those glowing patterns. They respond to my emotions, she confirmed. Joy, fear, anger, attraction. The patterns on her neck and face pulsed with a brighter, warmer light as she said the last word, a clear, involuntary admission. Leo swallowed hard. The air between them crackled with unspoken energy. The garden suddenly felt very small, very intimate. "Zalara," he said again, taking a hesitant step closer. "What you felt, the connection, I felt it too, in the chamber just now during the demonstration." He reached out, mirroring her earlier gesture, letting his fingers hover just above the skin of her forearm. He could feel the heat radiating from her, see the light under her skin swirl faster, brighter. "I don't understand it, but I feel it." Her breath hitched almost imperceptibly. Her golden eyes darkened, pupils expanding. "Leo." He closed the small distance, letting his fingers brush against her skin. The jolt returned, stronger this time, a wave of warmth and light surging between them. Her patterns flared brilliantly, illuminating her face in a breathtaking display of blues, violets, and whites. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into the touch, her eyes closing for a brief moment. He felt an answering warmth flood him, a sense of rightness, of homecoming, that dwarfed anything the nectar had ever produced. When she opened her eyes, the cool mask of the high priestess was gone, replaced by raw, open emotion. "The Shakhem begins whether we understand it or not," she whispered, her voice thick with feeling. "It demands acknowledgement." "Okay," Leo breathed, his gaze dropping briefly to her lips, then back to her luminous eyes. "How do we acknowledge it? Please don't say chanting. Please don't say ritual sacrifice." A slow smile touched Zalara's lips, genuine and dazzling, transforming her face. The light from her skin pulsed in response, warm and inviting. "I believe," she murmured, leaning slightly closer, her unique scent filling his senses. "The first step is relatively simple, even for a human." He didn't need a translator implant to understand her meaning. He closed the remaining distance, his hand sliding up her arm to cup her shoulder, feeling the surprising heat of her skin through the thin robe. Her own hand came up, cool fingers tracing the line of his jaw, sending shivers down his spine despite their warmth. The patterns on her face swirled inches from his, mesmerizing, alive. Then their lips met. It wasn't like kissing a human. Her lips were cool at first contact, then immediately warmed, molding against his with surprising softness. The faint hum he sometimes felt around her intensified, vibrating through the point of contact, through his entire body. It was electric, overwhelming, like plugging directly into a power source made of starlight and warmth. He felt the light from her pattern surge, could almost feel it washing over his own skin, sinking deeper. His own senses heightened, her scent, the silky texture of her skin under his hand, the faint taste of ozone and something indescribably her. She made a soft sound in her throat, a low hum of pleasure and surprise, and deepened the kiss, her body pressing closer. He wrapped his other arm around her waist, pulling her flush against him. She felt both delicate and strong, the heat radiating from her startling. The patterns covering her body seemed to glow even through her robes, casting shifting light around them in the dim garden. It wasn't just a physical kiss, it felt like communication. An exchange of energy, emotion, intent, flowing back and forth between them, raw and unfiltered. The Shakhem wasn't just a concept. It was this living current humming between their joined bodies, their connected spirits. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, they simply stared at each other, the aftermath of the kiss hanging palpably in the air. The light from Zalara's skin slowly subsided from blazing intensity to a bright, warm, steady glow, swirling with soft pinks and golds he hadn't seen before. Her eyes were wide, luminous, reflecting the violet light of the garden. "Well," Leo managed, his voice husky, "that was resonant. Understatement of the goddamn millennium." Zalara laughed, a low, musical sound that sent another wave of warmth through him. "Indeed, Leo, highly resonant." She traced a finger over his lower lip, her touch sending sparks across his skin. "The physical expression of the Shakhem. It seems our biologies are more compatible than Cathar texts ever conceived." Yeah, compatible is one word for it, Leo agreed, feeling slightly dazed. He felt changed, like some internal switch had been flipped, aligning him with her energy. Life bond, no kidding. She grew serious again, though the warmth didn't leave her eyes or her skin. This bond, it solidifies your position, Leo. The resonance the convocation witnessed, amplified by our connection. Few will dare question it now. Except Vorlag, Leo guessed. Zalara nodded, her expression tightening slightly. The golden light flickered with cooler gray. The Corvin sept will not be so easily swayed. They value dogma above truth. They may see this bond not as sacred but as further proof of corruption. She sighed. Our connection, this Shakhem, makes you essential to my people's future, but it also places you in greater danger. Story of my life, Leo quipped, though the thought sent a chill down his spine. He looked at Zalara, at the swirling light beneath her skin, the fierce determination in her eyes, the softness that was just for him. He thought of his old life, the lonely shifts, the endless gray of the station. This was terrifying, confusing, dangerous, and utterly, completely worth it. So, he said, sliding his hand back to her waist, feeling the steady heat of her. What's the next step in this whole sacred life bond acknowledgement process? Besides more resonant kissing, which I am totally okay with. Zalara's smile returned, slow and full of promise. The light on her skin brightened again, warm and inviting. There are rituals, understandings to be shared. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to an intimate murmur that vibrated right through him. But perhaps we start with further exploration of this unexpected biological compatibility. He grinned, pulling her closer. Lead the way, Your Holiness. The bond between them deepened in the cycles that followed. The Shakhem was a living thing, growing stronger with every touch, every shared glance, every batch of nectar they brewed together, a process now filled with an undercurrent of potent intimacy. Leo learned to read the shifting colors and patterns on Zalara's skin as easily as human expressions. He learned how her temperature fluctuated with her moods, cool when deep in thought, warming rapidly with affection or amusement, growing almost hot with passion or anger. He learned about the subtle pheromonal shifts, realizing that the ozone floral scent intensified when she was near, creating a unique sense of alertness and connection within him. Their intimacy explored the fascinating landscape of Cathar physiology. Her skin, while appearing silver, was incredibly sensitive, the patterns reacting not just to emotion but to his touch, flaring with light under his fingertips. The energetic harmony manifested physically, creating a feedback loop where his touch amplified her responses, and her reactions sent waves of warmth and pleasure through him. Their differences became sources of intense discovery. The incompatibility Zalara had feared transforming into a uniquely satisfying connection neither could have imagined. It wasn't just physical. It was emotional, spiritual, woven together by the undeniable current of the Shakhem. They formalized their bond, not through ancient, rigid Cathar dogma, but through a simple, private ceremony in the attunement chamber. Standing hand in hand before the glowing font, they spoke promises not dictated by scripture, but by the genuine affection and respect that had grown between them. As they touched the font together, the chamber filled with brilliant azure light, the energy surging between them, sealing the Shakhem in a way that felt profoundly right. Leo, the accidental brewer, was now bound to the high priestess, not by prophecy or duty alone, but by choice. Yet the shadow of the Corvin sept remained. Vorlag, though publicly silenced by the convocation's acceptance, worked in the shadows, sowing doubt, whispering about alien corruption and the dilution of Cathar purity. The threat wasn't gone, merely driven underground, a lingering dissonance beneath the harmony Leo and Zalara had found. One evening, standing on a high balcony overlooking the temple complex, Zalara leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. The patterns on her skin glowed with a soft, contented gold. The violet sky arched above them, dusted with unfamiliar stars. "It is still hard to believe," Zalara murmured, her warm breath stirring his hair. that a simple cocktail could lead to this. Tell me about it, Leo chuckled, wrapping an arm around her waist, feeling the familiar heat and the gentle thrum of energy connecting them. From dive bar to divine consort, it's one hell of a career change. She tilted her head back to look at him, her golden eyes soft in the dim light. Are you happy, Leo? He looked into her eyes, saw the universe reflected there, felt the steady pulse of the Shakam binding them together. He thought of the danger, the uncertainty, the fact that he was light years from everything he'd ever known, and he smiled. Yeah, he said honestly. Yeah, I really am. She smiled back, lifting a hand to trace the line of his cheek. Her fingers were warm, the patterns on her skin pulsing gently against his. Good. He leaned down to kiss her, feeling that now familiar surge of energy, light, and warmth envelop them. The universe could keep its uncertainties. He had Zalara, the nectar, and a bond that defied logic. It was more than enough. Still, though, a tiny voice whispered in the back of his mind as he held her close, feeling the intricate light swirl against him. Does this mean I have to wear those pointy space robes now? Or is divine consort more of a casual Friday kind of gig?